Hey, Kenobi fans, welcome to another rousing episode of Rule the Kenobi on the Kenobi Podcast Network. Uh, this is Joe in the pilot seat, and yes, we've got the whole gang with us here tonight. This is a special episode. This is going to be a precursor to our regular show this week. The crew did a great job last night. I was a little under the weather. They've been backing me up recently, so I appreciate that. We had a great show with Jake James Lugo. I'm actually getting ready to listen to it myself, but you'll hear it right after this. But obviously, we recorded that. And then one of the biggest things in Star Wars just happened to pop up out of the blue, and we wanted to talk about it. The great Kenobi series is live. It's going to be going soon. We're all excited. We saw the trailer today, and we're just pumped. So to just let you know, it's Joe. You've got Joey. We've got Brent. We've got Alfie. We've got DDoc. We're going to be talking Kenobi here, and we're just going to go through what we liked about it with a trailer and everything like that. And Alfie actually had another great idea that he can add to it. So I know that was quick winded there, but welcome to Rule the Galaxy. We appreciate you coming back. And after you listen to us briefly talk about Kenobi, listen to the great show with Jake James Lugo. I'll start off, guys. We can go. It's a minute and like a minute and 45 seconds. We can go through and talk about it a little bit at a time. But I think what really got me today was when I saw this come out, and I don't remember which one of you guys sent it over initially, probably Alfie, because he's always quick to the trigger on that. The music and seeing this goosebumps, like I just felt it in my chest, hearing the music, the Duel of the Fates, the Jedi music, all that. What hit you guys? I mean, we've got a minute and 46 to talk about. We'll probably chop that up quite a bit, but anybody across the board, what hit you? Because the music hit me. Alfie, we'll start off with you.
Not only the music, but the cinematic scope of this, the look of this series. It looks more like a movie than Mando or the Book of Boba Fett have so far.
I would agree with you 100%. I think Adam Bray, Joey and I were talking about this briefly. I think Adam Bray mentioned that in a tweet this afternoon. He said it just looks cinematic from the whole scope of it. And I don't know, maybe it's because it was planned to be a movie initially, and that's the route they wanted to go. But it definitely had a more movie cinematic feel. And Brent, I'm sorry, they're back on Tatooine.
Here's the deal, though. So I'm glad that you brought that up. I said I'm tired of Tatooine. I get it. I'm tired of desert planets as well. So it's like, oh, let's go to the new sequel trilogy. Let's go to a new planet. Oh, let's go to Jeddah, which is what? A desert planet. Oh, let's go look at prequels. Let's go to a desert planet, right? So, but what piqued my interest also is it appears that there's either the bottom layers of Coruscant or a Coruscant-ish city, or if it's not Coruscant, is it now Hutta?
It's not that either.
So,
but it's not Tatooine.
Correct.
No.
Okay. It's a different location that is something that could possibly be either new or it is they're off world.
It is new.
Thank you. And it's what I asked, right? That's all I ask. I'm just tired of Tatooine. I knew they had to, right? Like Luke's there. Like there has to be a piece of it, but I'm glad that they're going somewhere else. That was kind of one of my big ones to start off with. So thanks, Joe.
You got it. DDoc.
First, I'll say, is my connection good? Because I had some issues last night. So we're looking good. All right. I was actually in the middle of fixing someone's sink for them when I got the text that it was out. And I fixed it real quick, went back to my shop, shut the door. And it was going to be one of those moments where if someone walked into my shop, I would have been like, get out, come back in 5 minutes. When Duel of the Fates hit, I was just immediate chills. Oh my God, this is real, This is the moment we've been waiting for, just to see him on the freaking screen. It's just man, we're actually getting this show. Pinch yourself moment.
Agreed. Joey, hit us.
Yeah, when DDoc, when you say 5 minutes, that's because you had to at least watch it 3 times, right? It wasn't just a one-time viewing. You had to allot 2, hopefully 3 times to rewatch it over again, because I know that's what I did. And yeah, I tweeted it out, and I'll keep tweeting it out. I just said, I'll keep saying it. What a time to be a Star Wars fan, because here we are. we're 17 years after our last time of seeing Ewan McGregor on the big screen playing Obi-Wan Kenobi, and here he is, and he's in this time period that we've all wondered about of, okay, what happens when the Empire is just completely crushing the galaxy throughout, and when Luke is a kid, and when, you know, Obi-Wan, you know, is the old wizard on Tatooine. What happens? We're like that DDoc said, we're literally seeing it. Ewan McGregor looked fantastic. All of a sudden in the first teaser, they drop young Luke, you know, 5 or 6 or 7-year-old Luke. I mean, I felt like that was something going in where we were like, okay, we're kind of expecting it, we're kind of hoping it, and then all of a sudden the first teaser, you get you know, a glimpse of him there at the Lars homestead. So biggest takeaway, I agree with you guys on the music. So cool, chills. I went and played Revenge of the Sith soundtrack while I was walking my dog earlier. And you always feel somebody actually, like, it was funny because somebody actually, like, their dog walked up to Happy, and it kind of took me by surprise. And so there's this person in front of me, and I have, you know, Battle of the Heroes blasting in my ears. And so I'm like, oh, if they only knew what I was listening to right now, they probably think I was such a weirdo. But yeah, man, I mean, what a time to be a Star Wars fan. It's just May 25th can't come soon enough.
You know, we were talking about it briefly before we got on, and one of the things that makes me see that this show is going to stand out. Look, Joey's a huge Mando fan. Like he has become attached to Mando and Baby Yoda, Grogu. I get that because it is something that took the world by storm when that show came out. But I don't think anybody was, you know, they didn't have that attachment of 20 years or 40 years in front of them to get that way. It's just something that caught certain people and it really grabbed a hold of them. This is a character who on May 25th, will be the 45th anniversary, I believe, of when he first saw the screen. And so now we're going to see this 45 years later, that storytelling in between what happened. And then you add Ewan McGregor into it, who let's face it, is an A-list actor. I mean, some of the things he's done and some of the movies he's been in, he's an A-list actor who is he does a very good, varied array of acting skills. To see him bring this to this show, my daughter Maddie, who is 25 and who liked the prequels because of Hayden Christensen, she just texted Joey and I before we got on here and said, okay, I watched that trailer. I'm going to have to watch this show. And that tells me that it really stands out to people. And I will tell you that outside of the music, the next thing that hit me was the tone of Ewan McGregor / Obi-Wan's voice. He almost sound defeated, destroyed, broken in some of his comments he was making throughout the trailer. So that was the next thing that was on my list of things. So,
well, not only from what he said, but I just say even like hearing Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi voice back in something that we already haven't heard, that kind of hit me a little bit of like, oh my gosh, like, wow, that's so cool. It's been so long. But yeah, for sure. I mean, he literally says we've lost, you know, the fight is over. And so you got this guy who's just literally, as we see, he's just like, hey, I'm out here. My main job is to look after this kid and just make sure that these people, these inquisitors who are coming after us aren't gonna get him. But I felt a certain, I mean, you know, I was thinking that we'd hear, like, I felt a certain tone, a certain theme of darkness. You could tell. I mean, we see the shot of the feet of a hanging person or alien or Jedi, whoever. I mean, again, this is Star Wars we're talking about, and they're out here hanging people on Tatooine, like, you know, they're hunting these Jedi. Like, this didn't seem like it was like, oh, your grandma, your dad's Star Wars. Like, this is, we're getting into some dark times here, man. And I thought that was very interesting as well.
agreed. Alfie.
Those lines he gave, obviously you think he's talking to someone. And the last time we heard Obi-Wan talk in Rebels, you know, on the holocron, yes, it was a message of go in hiding, but it was also a message of we'll bide our time, we'll regroup, we'll figure this out. And now you hear him and he's like, yeah, it's over. We lost. there's nothing we can do. So the thing that I'm really interested in, and I've talked about it with you guys today and on Twitter and stuff, is, you think back to that iconic moment in Revenge of the Sith with Obi-Wan and Anakin saying, they sense a trap and we're badass Jedi. So let's just go ahead and spring it. We'll fight our way out. And now, what we saw in the trailer, he can't spring the trap because of the timeline. He cannot be a Jedi anymore. Was that why he was fighting with a blaster rather than a lightsaber against Inquisitors? It's just a very different concept, and I'm excited to see it.
Where do you think he was the one fighting with the blaster?
When they were on the rooftop and he was being chased by the Inquisitor. They were also in an alleyway and he had a blaster in his hand.
So I was going to pause that.
Go ahead.
I paused that one, and I was going to say that because of the shape of the blaster and you see just a silhouette of the back, I look like Cad Bane because I saw the blaster. I'm just throwing that out there. Pause it and take a look at the way the blaster looks. It looks like Bane's blaster. And he's wearing like a trench coat.
Which he was wearing in the trailer.
Yeah, and I get that. I knew he's wearing more of a traditional garb and he wasn't wearing the trench coat. I didn't think that was Obi-Wan. I could be looking at it differently, but I thought it might be Cad Bane. Joey, who did you think?
I mean, like the way the blaster looked in the shadow, it kind of was giving me some Han Solo vibes. I don't know.
Same, and then I thought Beckett possibly too. Like that was another one that came to mind. Is it Beckett because we're kind of in that world where I think Beckett had the weapon before. Like I don't think Solo has it just yet because of timeline.
But it just, I mean, we all know how this goes. Like they weren't going to give that silhouette and the back shadow of it and that frame, they weren't going to give it to something or somebody who it didn't have any meaning. Like these that's how these teasers and these trailers and everything work. Like every little single Easter egg that every YouTuber and whoever else is going to figure out and poke out, like they put them there so people keep talking about it like we are right now. So that whether it's Cad Bane or Han Solo or whoever it is, they put it there so people are like, I don't know if that's just Obi-Wan. That might be somebody else. So every single frame has a purpose.
Oh, for sure. Yes.
Go ahead, DDoc.
Did you guys see the picture where the Inquisitor says, "Where is he?" and his lightsaber starts to spin? The back headshot. Have you seen the back headshot of Tamora Morrison compared to that photo?
Oh gosh. People, I heard people saying, "Is that Commander Cody?"
Yep. So I heard the same.
Because I mean, you look at the
Morrison.
back of that head, man. It's apparently they were filming around the same time as Book of Boba, so that's what I saw people posting on.
Wow, Commander Oh my gosh. Hey, there you go though. Exactly what we're talking about. Every frame.
I've said it before, they're filming all these shows relatively close in schedule.
Yep.
And Jon Favreau made 2 movies with 1 actor. So he's not going to have a difficult time, just like we saw in the Book of Boba Fett, filming 2 episodes with a fake Luke Skywalker in 2 minutes of Ahsoka. Hey, you got, 15 minutes today. Just read some lines and get in makeup. Got a couple hours. We'll get you in front of the volume. Yeah. There's no limit to the characters they can plug and play into these series off of a few, maybe a week, 2 weeks, couple days of filming.
I absolutely love it. Some quick things that stood out. One, when Obi-Wan shows up and starts, he's on the EOP, like they finished off at the end of Revenge of the Sith.
I really hope that we get some personality behind this thing. Like, I really hope they make it a character of itself, and him, Obi-Wan, and this EOP have, again, sort of like this, like we saw with Boba and the Bantha eventually, like we had with our dogs. Like, I just, it's, again, not a huge, like, main thing, but just a little side thing that I'm like, I hope we get to know this EOP a little bit.
Well, I love it because, as you guys know, at the end of this month, we're going to have John Jackson Miller on, who wrote the Kenobi book. And he's going to come on and talk about that and then his thoughts on the upcoming series, because the Kenobi book's getting re-released. But the EOP was named Rue in his book, and it Rue was constantly showing up in different scenes of that book. So I'm really excited to see if this is going to be named Rue. But guys, let's think about this for a second. We get Kenobi, and in this show, in just the trailer, we see 3 or 4 Inquisitors who we had no idea there was anything about Inquisitors until we watched Rebels. And now the Grand Inquisitor and the second whatever and the 7th brother and all the they're showing up in the Kenobi in live action. How freaking crazy is that? These are what we thought were like, these are throwaway characters because we can't use Darth Vader in every scene. And here they are. They're in this series. Go ahead, Brent.
Not only did they take the characters from the Rebels, they took the home base, and I know to beat a couple people to it, I'm sure they took the home base from Jedi Fallen Order, because I watched the Rebels and they didn't go to the home base. That came straight from the ending of Jedi Fallen Order. Am I correct? I don't know where it happens, DDoc, because I'm sure you know more about it than I do. But they threw that in there too. So we're not only pulling in cartoon animated series, you're also throwing in the video games.
Was that the water?
Yeah,
water tower?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's from Jedi Fallen Order.
Isn't that where he fights Vader on that in that building as that building is falling apart? I think in Fallen Order, if I'm not mistaken. See, I need to play that game again, man. It's been a little while.
That's what I thought you
Seems like I
were.
can play that game to start, man. Sounds badass.
Takes a while to get there, Joey. I'm about a quarter of the way through.
Yeah.
Takes a little bit of time to get there. But no, like that's what like that craziness was. Like I didn't realize it was the Fallen Order homeland, but like it's cool that they're bringing in a lot of different avenues, and it's again entry points, right? So this show will be somebody's entry point into the series. It'll be like, oh, okay, well, you can go play video games if you have a passion for video games now, because now you see these Inquisitors. Yep. If you want to see them fly, go watch the Rebels, right? Like
they're gonna
and
fly.
see, I haven't even finished Rebels yet, but I know the Inquisitors even more from Jedi Fallen Order. Like that's where I know them the best from, and I need to freaking knock out Rebels before this show comes out. So
I would say
that's my new goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I was about to say. It's like I know Dad and probably majority of people, Clone Wars is there, like, but I'm a sucker for Rebels. I absolutely love Rebels. I loved it. And so, yeah, just the fact that like there's that much tie-in from that series to a show that's this important and Star Wars is just awesome. It's so like rewarding, but just it's so badass just knowing like, wow, that animated series that was quirky and goofy and fun that I love so much is paying off in a big way.
Well, I know how important Rebels is to Brent, and I would say this. I have a daily battle whether I love Clone Wars or Rebels more, and I say that Clone Wars had the easier route because you had established characters that people knew from movies, had the action figures of, all those kind of things, and you were wrapping things into it. Rebels was its own brand new thing, and it had to bring people in or it was going to fail miserably. And yeah, you piecemeal in a Leia or you piecemeal in a Bail or an Ahsoka, and you get that, but they did a great job of creating something brand new, giving you all that, and then having it lead into live action. Just crazy to think about. Alfie, go ahead.
Okay, so we've covered video games in animated series. In just this like 2-minute trailer, you also tie in that that storyline that kept coming back in the comic books of the conflict between Obi-Wan and Uncle Owen. You know, how many times in the comic books did we see those two butt heads? Yep. You know, going all the way back to that first one with the chicken leg Darth Maul showing up, you know, and they're this constant battle of, you know, you need to leave and stay out of this kid's life because you're constantly bringing him into danger.
100% agree. And I think it was Adam Bray and you, Alfie, who were saying this would be a great time and a great side story to bring back the whole our Owen and Obi-Wan brothers. And that's a way they could play it off to where he's not a Jedi if the Inquisitors show up and things like that. Because that was a long-standing thing back in the 70s and early 80s. that Owen and Obi-Wan were brothers, and they had a parting of ways. But that could be a storyline that really covers or masks
Yeah.
some of this
Wait,
stuff.
what?
That goes all the way back
Oh,
to
yeah.
Return of the Jedi, right? The
Yeah.
novelization
Yeah.
mentioned that originally in that novelization of Return of the Jedi that Owen and Obi-Wan were brothers.
Yep.
And that's why he took Luke there.
That's quite.
So-
I mean, I kid you not. My entire existence, from the moment I've been a Star Wars fan, I've been around Star Wars. I joke you not. That is the first time I've ever heard that. And
Really?
I'm not questioning you. I'm just like blown away that I haven't. In all the Star Wars media that I consume, that's the first time. I mean, what? Tell me more.
Joey, I'm close to twice your age.
Yeah.
And this is also the same first time that I have heard this storyline. But I will also say and add this in as a piece of evidence. It was in a book.
I know Brent's not.
No, I honestly hadn't heard that. I mean, if that comes up, that will turn everything I know about Star Wars on its head. I
would
feel
love
anyway.
it.
I'm having one of those moments right now. So
I think it's just one of those ways that Filoni and Favreau can say, we're going to take that D character
Little
and that storyline that nobody knows and throw it in. I mean, yeah.
Wow.
I wouldn't put it past them. They do that stuff all the time and throw the obscure references in.
Well,
ahead.
and I mean, I guess it, like, if you think about it in a bigger way, like, it makes sense because everybody's always like, you know, we want to hide Luke from his dad. Where's the one place we take him? The place his dad was born and raised. Like, so I guess it does. Wow, man, it does make some more sense if they take. He's got that connection, so he's like, hey, bro, hide this kid for me. Dang, I'm gonna have to do some more looking into this. This is crazy.
That is giving me some Lily Potter Aunt Petunia. It's Aunt Petunia, right? Who he lives with.
Yeah.
That's giving me some
Mhm.
Harry Potter vibes because, you know, the sister thought she was a freak because she was, you know, a witch or whatever, and they parted ways, but here they are taking care of his son, you know, I don't know. But man, there was something to the innocence of seeing just childhood Luke on that thing, man, that
Yes.
just hit me like so hard, where I was just like, man, I was like that, like right when I saw that, I was like, oof, just like, I don't know. I got kind of filled up seeing it because, like you said, the vibes of the loss, like you remember your wins. It's almost like winning a Super Bowl. You don't think about the Super Bowl you lost 2 or 3 years ago because you know that they wound up beating the Empire at one point. But we really, like, you know, Revenge of the Sith ended on a pretty bad vibe technically, and this is even going to be worse vibes probably. You know, it's like Joey said, we're seeing people getting hung like in Star Wars, you know, and Luke's life is probably going to be in danger in this show. I mean, you know, you saw Owen staring down the Inquisitor at one point.
Yep.
Like it's going to be scary, man.
Go ahead, Brent.
So even with that scary and the darkness, there was the statement, and I think it was Vader talking to the Inquisitors, that we can hunt them down because no matter what they are, they leave their scar. And he's talking about it in like a negative way, but they leave their scar of hope around. So the essence of a Jedi is always going to be there, and you can hunt down that essence. So even though there's dark, there is that again, and I think they finish on the end of it too with Obi-Wan. I think the last word is hope, right before they fade to black at the end of the trailer too. So yeah, I see what you're saying, and obviously I think it's going to go because this will transition into A New Hope, right?
Yep.
And it is the hope of the rebellion and all of that other stuff. But that was one thing that I think, even with it being dark, I think there is that the hope theme. It's going to take a while to get to, but it'll be there.
I agree. And Alfie, I'll go right to you in a second, but DDoc, you're right. Seeing a young Luke Skywalker sitting on the top of the large homestead, basically practicing to be a pilot or a pod racer and doing the same kind of hand motions that you see Anakin doing in Phantom Menace. Between the music and scenes like that, oh my gosh, that was just like sticking you right there, right in the chest. That was just powerful.
And DDoc, I saw, I think a tweet that you quote tweeted or tweeted, but it was like, something about how Obi-Wan waited this long from seeing Luke like that to when Luke shows up and he's 19 years old in A New Hope and talking about how much he's like his father or whatever. Like that's some heavy, like deep stuff, man. You know, that's big time.
Alfie, go ahead.
Yeah. Not only would he have like PTSD from the Clone Wars in the fall of the Jedi Order, but he has to sit there and basically watch the reincarnation of his best friend, his brother, grow up and think back to the original trilogy, like how similar Luke was to Anakin, you know, quick to anger, you know, always no patience. Yeah, that would just tear you down. And I think it's going to be hard to watch. But to Brent's point about the hope and the Inquisitor giving that spiel about basically how to trap a Jedi, I saw it the opposite way. I didn't really feel much hope. That sounded a little Thrawnish to me, like, okay, we've spent enough time chasing these guys around. This is how we're going to draw them out because they are Jedi. And we go back to who were the Jedi close to in the Clone Wars. You know, how can we utilize, you know, innocent civilian type people to draw the remainder of the Jedi out and basically set traps?
That's a good
Agreed.
point. Big, you did a little. I mean, big shout out to the original Stormtroopers. Saw a lot of the original.
Very shiny.
You know, the transition has fully happened. We're seeing the OT Stormtroopers out and about in full force. So that was exciting to see.
Did anybody else catch this, or was I way off base? When whether it's Obi-Wan or whether it's Cad Bane or whatever on the roof and the blaster fire is happening, the birds that came out, did it remind you of the birds that were around Ahsoka when she would always have one of those birds following her around? If you guys could
The
look at
owl?
that screen,
Yeah,
yes. Did they look like those owls, or did they look
Oh.
like another creature out of the prequels?
So
But-
Obi-Wan's going to jump into the world between worlds?
Oh dear gosh, I didn't say that.
We're
Well,
retconning
because-
everything.
It just seemed like to me, why show that vision of those popping out of wherever they were? But it did seem like it looked like those owls or those birds from that.
Again, like
that
Joey
stuff.
said, that was something that it's not, but we're immediately going to make that connection to, because we're used to seeing that associated with this kind of, you know, the A team of Jedis. They have those birds. There's a connection between Vader and Ahsoka and the bird, but I don't think so. They were a different color, like almost green. They didn't quite have the same shape.
You know,
So-
things do look a little different. Look at the Grand Inquisitor. His face is a little shaped different than the
Yeah.
animated series.
Very, very different from the animated series. Here's another one too.
That's gonna be so annoying hearing people bitch about that, huh?
It's already started, man. It's
Yeah.
already started.
Pat's not big enough, and the fucking Inquisitor's head's too round. Like, good lord, man! More people on Twitter to be like, "Well, it's just fan service, and they didn't even get it right." I mean, good lord, dude, go freaking put your head in the sand and shut up.
Well, in episodes 4 of Rebels, he looks like this.
Oh,
Anyway.
God, you're right.
I've seen more of the comparison to how that species looked in Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, from Utapau.
Yeah, they were the same one as that's the species of the Grand Inquisitor.
They're from Utapau. Okay.
Real quick, the question. So the eye at the end of Kenobi in a logo, and some of the art, some of the still frames that Vanity Fair, whoever did that article about it, that was released yesterday or today. What lightsaber is that? Because the still and the eye of the Kenobi looks like Luke's from Return of the Jedi.
It most certainly does.
And the frame, the still frame that came from the series from the Vanity Fair or whatever, it's a blue lightsaber, but the head and the hilt still looks like the Return of the Jedi one. So it's definitely not prequel Obi-Wan Kenobi one. Who do we know? Like, do you think we'll get a story about that? What's going on?
It is not Kenobi's for 100% comparison. No.
Yeah, Dad, you've got the authentic one there. And we all know it from the prequels. But you look at the one that is the eye in the Kenobi at the end of Kenobi, and the title looks exactly like Return of the Jedi, Luke. But then in the picture, I'm just like, what's going on? Whose is this? Did he get a new one? What's the deal?
a
No,
good
I
question.
agree, Joey. I mean, that was the first thing I saw. My light is kind of screwing it up
You know,
here, but you can see.
That's not
Yeah, I zoomed in on it. I'm like, what saber is that? I mean, it looks beautiful, but yeah, it almost looks like the pre-version of Luke's Return of the Jedi, saber, like before maybe he modded it or something. Who knows, man?
Only on this show do we go deep into the hilts of lightsabers.
What did Qui-Gon's hilt look like?
his was
His was black.
a lot. Yeah.
Sorry.
A heavy thing of black. It didn't have the thing that stands out to me is that little tiny neck that has a connector that's wider at the top, and you can really differentiate it from there. Qui-Gon's was just pretty tubular. Like,
Yeah, I only asked because that was a ongoing theory for quite a long time that Luke's Return of the Jedi saber was made from Qui-Gon's.
Wow, never even thought of that.
It-
If I'm
it-
not mistaken, I feel like Qui-Gon's was black with a red button and just a little bit of silver on the back side of it.
Yes,
you're
it was.
100% on there, DDoc.
Yep, it was. I'm looking at it right now. It does not look 100% like the one in the logo either. So
Here's the famous
Maybe it's a new
shot.
saber.
Here's the famous shot where Obi-Wan is eyeing it, and it's starting to kind of move and rattle, and Phantom Menace.
mm-mm.
A lot of black, a little bit of silver, but
We are
again,
the-
there's not a whole lot there at the top.
We are living in Brent's world. We're talking lightsaber hilts galore tonight.
Love it.
I just thought it was, I'm like, okay, well, that's again, like, as if people aren't going to notice that, like that has to be something. there.
Hold on. I want to throw this by you. I'm looking at the lightsaber hilt right now of Darth Maul, and it has a section at the top that gets skinny like that towards the end before it opens back up into a wider one. And Obi-Wan did defeat Darth Maul before this time frame out in the desert of Tatooine. Just throwing that out.
Wouldn't that be after?
Oh, it's
It would
after.
be. It's after. It's after
No, Rebels stuff was going on then, right?
7 years. It's like 7 years after. They
Remember,
at least the
Obi-Wan
pictures
was
I've
pretty
seen.
old.
I'm just saying. I'm looking here at his hilt.
Luke
when
and
he's
Leia are
fighting.
like 10 years old in this series.
Okay, he
Leia
was-
was a senator in Rebels.
Okay. All
Hold
right.
on.
She was like a young
Timeline.
teenage, like a young teen, or like maybe a late teen.
Hold on.
Timelines, man, timelines.
So I look it up like lightsaber hilts.
The only one I
I'm
know
loving-
looks like
I'm
that
loving this.
is Luke's from Jedi.
Well, what's
I'm
very
loving
okay.
this.
So now I look this up. There are 2 Obi-Wan Kenobi entries, and one of them
Oh,
is
dang.
from the prequels, and one of them
That's
Is
the
from the one
original
we see.
trilogy.
I've got the original trilogy one right here.
This
Well,
one right here,
let's-
though, is the one that we see in the Obi-Wan Kenobi still.
It is.
Well,
with the
where did
small-
it come from? Where? He didn't lose his saber to Anakin.
Maybe he was a dual wielder and we just didn't know.
Somebody's got some explaining to do.
I think we've
Well,
cracked-
somehow Luke got Yoda's lightsaber, so who knows?
Right.
somehow the Emperor has returned.
Somehow.
The world between worlds. He just walked in and he grabbed a different, and he's gonna retcon his lightsaber hilt.
But
There we go.
as we can see, if you guys can tell, so the 2 on the far ends of the screen, you got Luke from Return of the
Mhm.
Jedi and now Mando, and you got Obi-Wan from apparently this series, and you can see the similarities there.
Kiddo, I do see that with the skinniness before it comes out to the end. Yeah.
Yep. I don't know, man. Wow.
Maybe it's one he
So-
picks up in the story. Because like I said,
So-
he can't really use the Force or his lightsaber for most of the story.
At this point, I want to make sure that people who are listening to the podcast watch the YouTube because we are showing all of these lightsaber hilts, and if you're listening to the podcast, you might not quite see it. Just want to put the plug in that can be found on YouTube at Rule the Galaxy. We put a lot of our podcasts up. DDoc gives us some thumbnails on that. But I'm going to switch it just real quick. One noticeable absence that did stand out to me is there was no Hayden or Vader.
Just his breathing at the end.
Yeah, that's so right before we got on here, because I only watched it on my phone, I threw it up on the YouTube app on my new TV in my living room, and just because I was like, I'm sure I'll pick up some stuff, and that was the first time that I heard the Vader breath at the very, very end. Yes, but no Hayden.
Well, they're saving it for us. They're gonna shock the world with that one.
And then here's the other question that I have for you, because we've done the breakdown of The Mandalorian, right? We watched the video of The Mandalorian and did 2 hours of the Mandalorian's preview. And that turned out to be like the first 3 or 4 episodes. We watched The Mandalorian season 2 and broke down that one. And that turned out to be the majority of the preview was the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
We watched the Book of Boba Fett preview. We've done a lot of previews, but we've watched the Book of Boba Fett preview, and that was essentially the first 3-ish episodes.
Yep.
So, and I know this one's supposed to be short, right? It's a very limited run. It's only like
6.
4 to 6.
6.
Yeah, 4 to 6. So are we in for more? Is this just the first 2 to 3 episodes?
I would agree.
I would agree. I personally think the first half of the season, the Inquisitors, Imperials, whatever, I don't think they'll have any idea that they're dealing with Kenobi. I don't think they're on Tatooine, and let me say, they're not on Tatooine after Kenobi.
I mean, my question I have to ask, which I mean, maybe it was answered in Rebels, or Kenobi had to be somewhat of a legend, I guess, at this point, right? Like for him being technically a war hero in the Clone Wars and everything. And maybe I'm having a brain fart, but like, do they think Kenobi is dead, or do they just don't know where? Like, they're just like, oh yeah, that guy. Like, we never heard anything about him. Like, do you think that's something that would be addressed?
Go ahead, Alf.
Go ahead, Alfie.
Well, think about it this way. You also had a young farm boy on a planet with the last name Skywalker, and nobody was really beating down his door. So I would say no. Nobody really.
Well, because
at that point, and you go back to what we talked about before, the Empire purging the records of the Jedi and turning them into, the bad guys of the Clone Wars. And thinking about it today, going back and thinking about the original trilogy, we kind of always saw Uncle Owen as a jerk, for holding Luke back. But what would have happened to Luke Skywalker if he would have gone, to the Imperial Academy with that last name?
Oh, gosh. Hey, we seem to know another guy with that name.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing is they kind of World War II Germany, Hitler Germany. I think they wiped. They tried to get rid of all that. They tried to, completely shred the history of all that. So I think people were just kind of like, well, we don't really know, and we don't really want to dive into it because if we do, we're going to get killed, kind of thing. Like,
so my thing is thinking about what you were just saying. The only one, and this is coming strictly from movies and from visual, the only one that truly knows him as Skywalker is Palpatine. I don't do they know? Does the rest of the Empire know Vader as anything other than Vader?
Oh, I see
what are we limiting this to?
Only a very few.
What I'm saying this. What my question and my observation is coming strictly from looking at the video, looking at the movies, looking at the not looking into the extended universe or whatever. The only one that I would know of that would know would be Palpatine, because he was there when they put and grafted him and build him together, everyone else would know him as Vader, because Vader comes out like Krennic in Rogue One doesn't say anything about Skywalker. He calls him Vader. Like, I don't even know if he calls him Vader, but like
even Tarkin too, right? I mean, Tarkin was around in the Clone Wars and knew of Anakin Skywalker and everything, right? But then, I mean, somebody correct me. Didn't he was under the same impression too that it was just kind of a
Vader released him. Like,
Skywalker, everyone along with the Jedi got just completely massacred, and then all of a sudden Vader popped up. Like
That was the storyline that was out there. Yes.
DDoc, what were you holding up there?
I was gonna say, for my Vader scene, Palpatine is the only one there. So this is when it starts off. It starts off as Anakin, and you pull this little guy out and turn around, and there's Vader.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Watch the YouTube, guys.
that's awesome.
Well, I tell you what, I didn't mean to throw this on you guys tonight. I appreciate you guys coming on here and doing this, and now I'm knee deep into reading articles on how Obi-Wan had 2 different lightsabers and how Luke's and Jedi looks like Obi-Wan's original lightsaber. So now I got to go do more research on that. So that's fun. Any closing thoughts on Kenobi before we drop this and add it to our Jake James Lugo show tomorrow? Anybody closing thoughts? Anything that stood out to you? DDoc.
I'll just say, I mean, going off of what Brent said, I mean, we were able to just talk about this trailer for who knows how long, and we didn't even see Vader in it. So, I mean, this show is just going to be crazy, man. I'm just so happy to see it. I'm excited.
Good. Alfie, Joey, or Brent?
Yeah, I can't wait. This looks phenomenal. Like I said today on Twitter, this might be one of the best projects that comes out of being in developmental hell in Hollywood. You think back to how long this has festered and being rewritten and scrapped and shelved and brought back out again for it to look like this. And again, it's only 2 minutes, but I was blown away and I can't wait.
Me either. Brent or Joey?
I'll just say thank you, Filoni and Favreau, for showing the world that Star Wars has a life. Because again, you say it came out of developmental hell. I think it became viable once everyone said once everyone bought into the Mando and the Mando verse, it became a viable property again. So thank you for that. I always temper my enthusiasm for everything, but I'm a sucker for a trailer, and that trailer was awesome. So I definitely am excited to see where this thing goes. And I will also say again, we're finally off Tatooine for a minute. Maybe it's just one episode, but the whole thing is not on Tatooine based upon this trailer. So I'm happy for that also.
Yeah, I'll echo, what everybody said about the Kenobi series. It's going to be phenomenal. And, it's going to be good to get, as much as I love now the routine and the tradition that's become Star Wars at the holidays, it's going to be really, really cool and really nice to get back to the originality of Star Wars kicking off the summer. And kicking off the summer in a big way. I just thought about that. And I think it's going to be exciting. But off the Kenobi, I was finishing up moving some kind of nonsense, not nonsense, but some just miscellaneous stuff from my apartment to my new house with my wife, and my dad and mom came and helped. But this was before you got there, and one of the boxes that we had a 2-foot Baby Yoda plush doll that was holding a pumpkin that had the cutout of the Mandalorian helmet on it. I'm moving this into the moving truck, and as I'm moving it, I'm walking past. There's these 3, I want to say, 12 to 13-year-old girls coming off from school, walking home. 2 African American girls, 1 Latina, Hispanic looking girl, again, probably 12 or 13. I'm walking past them. I have this box. I can see a little bit of Baby Yoda. And they say, "Oh my gosh, I love your Yoda doll." And I say, "Oh, thanks." And so I think, again, to my point, here it is. These little girls who are
15, 16 years at least younger than me, from a totally different background, I'm sure, walking around downtown Indy. They see Baby Yoda. Not only do they not just comment amongst it about themselves, they make the comment to me, this older white guy, stranger that I never met, about how they like the Yoda doll. And so what we've talked about in my appearances over the last few weeks on this show, Baby Yoda knows no bounds. He transcends time and culture and everything you can imagine. So kind of to what Brent said, you know, Star Wars is in the zeitgeist again, man, and it feels good.
A good thing. And a quick reminder, Deborah Chow, I believe, is leading the show, right, Alfie? Deborah
Yes.
Chow?
Yes.
Okay. So a shout out to her because obviously she's done some awesome work. But guys, thank you for doing this. Thanks. Go ahead, Alfie.
Real quick before we go, just to highlight on Joey what he just said. So you can see
Oh,
she's asleep. Baby Yoda jammies and a big Baby Yoda squishmallow.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh. Well, there you go. We're all spending our money the right way.
That's great.
Thank you, George Lucas. Thank you, Star Wars, Filoni, Favreau, Deborah Chow, everybody in between. Guys, thanks for doing this real quick and hopping on. We couldn't pass up the opportunity to talk about Kenobi. And hey, we'll add that show on. We'll add this on to the Jake James Lugo show. Check it out. You're going to love it. It's a little longer with both these together, but thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching. And until next week, may the force be with you.